Oh boy, I love crab cakes. Wait a second. What's this? Ladies and gentlemen, we have a crisis on our hands. Too often, crab cakes have a whole lot of filler, not a lot of crab. Now, I guess this shouldn't be too big of a shock. Croquettes, rissoles, and other kinds of minced meat mixed with filler and binder been around since the dawn of civilization. It was a really good way to extend your supply of food. In fact, the first recipe I found that resembled modern crab cakes came from Robert May's cookbook, The Accomplished Cook, first published in 1660. In it, he starts with crab, some egg, and some bread, mixes them together, and seasons it with salt, and then almond paste and nutmeg. Now, this is an early recipe, and he was British, so we can forgive him for it not sounding all that appealing. But today, especially in an affluent society, there's no reason why crab cakes shouldn't have much crab in them. Now, again, I can understand if Bert's discount seafood they sell in the back of the gas station was mostly filler. But when you go to a gourmet restaurant and order crab cakes, you expect to get some crab in them. And what's worse, crab cakes are deceptively simple and easy to make. I'm Bill. Bacon has wandered off somewhere. And today on another cooking show, we're making crab cakes. No, not like that. Okay, crab cakes. To start, you're going to want to use a larger bowl than you think you're going to need. You're going to need plenty of work area for this. Now the first thing we should probably consider is the crab meat. You'll want to get it in a can, either a 1 pound can or 2 half-pound cans or jars. You can find this in the seafood aisle with the fish. It's important to use the good stuff. Now crab is generally graded in 3 ways. Colossal or jumbo lump is made up of very large individual pieces of crab. This is very good, something I would use for, say, veal Oscar. Not for crab cakes, though. Now on the opposite end, there's also backfin crab meat. This is good, and you can use it, but I prefer to use lump crab meat. It's kind of a happy medium between the two. So what you're going to want to do is open your can, take some type of strainer with a coffee filter, drop it on, and set it aside to let it drain out a little bit. You don't want too much moisture in this. Now that we have that, we're going to start building our base. First thing we want is a 1/4 cup of mayonnaise. Get that all in there. In addition to the mayonnaise, you're going to want 1 egg. Along with the egg, half of a lemon turned into juice. Now let's work on some seasoning. We're going to start with 1 teaspoon of garlic powder. Add to that a teaspoon of ground mustard. We're also going to want to use a teaspoon of salt. As well as a teaspoon of Worcestershire sauce. And of course, it's not a crab dish without some Old Bay. 1 tablespoon. Now another issue we might run into is moisture. So we're going to want to add some moisture control. To that, we're going to crush up some crackers. Saltine crackers, butter crackers, those work. If you're gluten intolerant, consider a gluten-free cracker. You want about 1/3 cup crumbs. I like using crackers like this, packaged like that, because that's pretty much the perfect amount. So go ahead, crush those up, add them to the mix. Now at this point we want to stir it all together. Break up the egg, get ourselves a good batter going. I know it doesn't look that pretty, but trust me, this is going to be good. Now to this, we're going to go ahead, add our crab meat. Now at this point we want to stir it as little as necessary. And you could actually start right now, you'll have 100% crab cakes. But you can add a little flavor. I like using 1/4 of a bell pepper, diced, and 2 green onions, sliced thin. And using a spoon, just gently fold this together. This is why we didn't use the colossal meat, because it gets a little beaten up in this process. Just combine it till everything is good and mixed up. And once it looks like the Old Bay is a little bit on everything, go ahead and set this aside for half an hour to give the dried spices a little time to take in the moisture and let their flavors out. Okay, it's been half an hour. We've preheated the pan with some oil in it. Just enough oil to cover the bottom of the pan. You don't want these things to be swimming. Now, that batch of crab cake batter or crab cake mix we made, it's enough to make about 4 decent sized patties. So go ahead and shape them just like you would a hamburger and put them in. Now this is a large pan, but we're still only going to do 2 at a time. We don't want the oil temperature to drop too much. If it does, these crab cakes will just soak in the oil and that won't taste very good. So we put them in, we're going to let them cook, and we're not going to touch them for 5 minutes. And our 5 minutes are up, so it's time to flip. Now don't worry if you don't get this right the first time. It takes practice and you won't always do it right. But use a helper if you need to. Take spatula and just gently flip it over. Now don't flip it right back to where it was. Get it elsewhere because again you want the heat. And let that go another 5 minutes. And it's been another 5 minutes, so these crab cakes are done. Take your spatula, just remove them from the pan. This one right here got a little beaten up, but that's okay, it's still going to taste fantastic. Now before cooking your next ones, take a look at the oil. If it's turned a little too dark, a little too brown, throw it out, pour some more oil, and bring it up to heat. Now we're just going to cook our last 2 crab cakes. And there you have it, crab cakes. Now, you could serve these with salad, coleslaw, baked potato, french fries, or even corn on the cob. Whatever way, you're going to enjoy it. I'm Bill, Bacon's camera shy tonight, and you've been watching another cooking show.